Hi, I'm Andrew Childress for Envato Tuts Plus, and in this course, I'm going to help you tackle something that many people dread doing, giving a presentation using Microsoft PowerPoint. Building a presentation can certainly feel intimidating. Even if you know what you want to say to your audience, it can be challenging to know how to design slides in a way that really gets that message across to the audience in a way that resonates. In this course, I'll help you build your presentation skills. We'll design a presentation from scratch so that you feel confident about the message that you're giving your audience. I'll walk you through everything from writing the presentation to helping you build skills while actually giving the presentation so that you have confidence about what you're going to say. In this course, I'll also introduce you to Envato Elements, a site that you can grab everything you need to build a presentation easily. You'll learn to use a pre-built professional template to speed up the process of giving a presentation. Elements is a service that includes access to all kinds of things like icons, graphics, stock photos, and most importantly, pre-built PowerPoint templates that are far better than Microsoft's built-in options. In this course, I'll walk you through how to build a great presentation using a template. We'll use one of these templates to kickstart our own work in building a presentation. You're going to find out that you don't have to be a graphic designer to build a really professional presentation. Instead, you'll use a template as the starting point and take a shortcut to building something that looks great. I'll even show you some of my favorite tools that you can use to have confidence in giving the presentation. You'll learn how to use presenter view and speaker notes to keep your most important details nearby when presenting. I hope you're ready to jump in. Even if you've never used Microsoft PowerPoint, this course is the one for you. Let's get started.
One of the hardest parts of getting started with building a PowerPoint presentation is designing your slides. Even if you know exactly what you want to say, you might not know how you want to show it in a presentation. One of the options is to use one of PowerPoint's built-in themes. You can come over to the Design tab here on PowerPoint's ribbon and click on it. Now, we'll use one of Microsoft's built-in themes by clicking on one of the thumbnails. If you already have a presentation you've developed, choosing one of these templates will basically overhaul the look and feel of your presentation. It changes the color scheme, fonts, and more with just a click. But this isn't really a way to get ideas for your presentation. For that, I can't recommend enough PowerPoint Premium templates that are like cookbooks for your presentation. It's got the recipe for a successful slide design inside of it. You can grab a custom template and use it as the starting point for your presentation. The best way to get ideas for your presentation is to use Envato Elements, an all-you-can-download flat-rate service that includes over 600 PowerPoint templates, and it's always growing. With the subscription to Elements, you'll have access to all of those templates, plus over 300,000 digital assets you can use. Not only does a subscription to Elements include PowerPoint templates, it includes all types of creative files like graphics, stock photos, and more that are extremely useful when building your presentation in PowerPoint. I've already got an Elements subscription and have logged into my account. To get started, I'm going to jump to the presentation template section. And now on the side, I'll go ahead and switch to the PowerPoint themes. You can see that Elements also has templates for Apple's Keynote software if that's your presentation app of choice. For the purpose of this course, I'm going to use the X-Note PowerPoint template. This template includes more than 40 designs for slides that are professional enough for any purpose. It also includes alternate color schemes and multiple file sizes that'll be compatible regardless of the screen you present on. The value of using a template like this is that it comes with plenty of ideas. You might already know what you want to say, but seeing ideas for slide designs is a head start over starting from scratch. Let's go ahead and download the X-Note template. You'll see that Elements asks us to note the license usage. If you're using this on a project, just know what project you'll use it on and press download. It's important to note that even if you stop subscribing to Elements, you can still use the asset on the existing projects that you've included it on. If you're just browsing and want to test out files, you can also just choose trial use to sample the asset and see if you want to use it. Don't forget to come back and enter a license usage for it later on if you do include it in a real project. We'll come back to grab some other files later while working on the presentation. I'll go ahead and enter a license usage here for the purpose of this course, and then go ahead and download it. This is another thing that I really like about Elements. You can use it to track how you licensed assets for use. If I click on my username here and come over to my downloads, I can see a history of everything I've grabbed and notes for how I've used the assets. This is handy to backtrack and remember what I've worked on and see my download history. You can add a license use here later on if you need to. As I mentioned, another value of Elements is that it comes complete with access to stock photos and graphics. As I jump over to the Photos section, you can see a variety of categories for images that you can download and use as part of your presentation. It's easy to navigate, and the cost of an Element subscription quickly pays for itself with just a few downloads. Whether it's a photo, a graphic, or a PowerPoint template, think about Elements the next time you're building a presentation as a shortcut. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to get started with this presentation template. We'll choose from one of the variants and start working in the X-Note, so stay tuned. We've gone ahead and grabbed the X-Note template and are ready to get started with it in PowerPoint. The X-Note comes packaged as a zip file that you'll need to extract to get the presentation file itself out. Let's go ahead and open it up. And now let's double click on this main files folder to get started. Inside that folder is a variety of files, but the first one I want to call your attention to is the help file packaged as a PDF. I'll go ahead and open it up, and this is yet another reason to use Elements to grab files. Files like PowerPoint templates include these help guides and instructions on how to use and customize the template. The files are all documented, so if you download something, you can get up to speed using it pretty quickly with the documentation. Back inside the X-Note folder, you'll see two main folders, and the one that you'll choose is important. One of these is for 4x3 screens, and another is for 16x9 screens. Let's talk about this quickly, because the file you choose is based upon the screen you'll present on. Every screen has what's known as an aspect ratio, which is the proportion of width to height. A widescreen TV might have a different aspect ratio than an iPad screen, for example. Most often, the decision comes down to either a 4:3 aspect ratio or a 16:9 aspect ratio. It helps if you know what type of screen you'll be presenting on, so that you can choose the size that best fits the display. When you pick a presentation with the same aspect ratio as the screen, the presentation will fill the entire screen and look its best. Here are some quick rules of thumb for choosing the aspect ratio based upon popular screen sizes. Laptops are mostly 16:9 aspect ratio, although MacBooks are often 16:10. Many projectors are 4:3 aspect ratio, but some are even designed to mimic the widescreen 16:9 format. Large screen displays are often found in modern meeting rooms, which are just basically large LCD screens that are 16:9. If you aren't sure, I'd recommend building your presentation on a 16:9 canvas. The X-Note and many other themes from Elements contain multiple slide formats to accommodate the range of screen sizes. Let's jump back and open that folder up. Inside, you'll see several different color options for creating your presentation: color, dark, green, and yellow. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to use the dark version that we saw in the preview online. Inside the dark folder, you'll again see another option, a .ppt file and a .pptx file. If you're using a modern version of PowerPoint like 2010 or newer, I would definitely recommend using the pptx file. Very old versions of PowerPoint may still work with the X-Note if you use the .ppt version. Go ahead and double-click the file to open it up. Now we're inside of the starter file for the X-Note. Throughout this course, we're going to take the bones of this presentation file and re-architect it for our own purposes. The value of starting with a presentation template like this is that it comes with better slide designs than I could build on my own. I can simply take these starter slides and add my own content to it for the best of both worlds, between professional and easy to build. Next up, we'll talk about writing our presentation and the steps you should take to build it. Stay tuned to start developing your content. Even though this course is going to focus on using Microsoft PowerPoint, every presentation should start off by writing and thinking about the content. The first thing that I want to say is that before you ever open up PowerPoint, you should really have a solid idea for what you're going to present. A blank slide like this one simply has too many options to facilitate writing a presentation. If you open PowerPoint and try to write your content while also designing the slides at the same time, it's going to take much longer. I really like fellow Tuts Plus author Brad Smith's perspective on the writing process, so I want to share one of my favorite tips from his tutorial. The first step should be to develop the presentation's thesis. The thesis is the central key idea that your presentation is built around. I know this seems like a basic idea, but it's easy to forget as you're writing that you should stick to one key central idea. I think that when you're developing a thesis, the key is to think about what the goal of your presentation is. And to set the goal of your presentation, it helps to think about what type of presentation you're going to be writing. I like to think of presentations in categories that include persuasive, informative, decision-driven, and introductory. What helps me is to write down or note that thesis. Here are some examples of thesis statements that you can use for each of these types of presentations. The thesis statement is that central key idea that we're going to tie all of the supporting details back to. Every statement or item that you include in your presentation should support the thesis statement. For the purpose of this course, we're going to write an introductory speech to introduce our audience to our business and the services that our business provides. After I set the thesis statement, I'll start working on the outline with all of the key supporting points. My process here is nothing special. It simply includes building out a very basic outline. I like to add very few details as I'm going and stick to the key ideas for each of the slide. Since you're going to build out those supporting points and the details using different types of content in PowerPoint, it's easier to keep this high level. It's an outline, so just get the basic idea for each slide down, and you can work out the details later. Let's go ahead and save our outline as a Word document. Once you have your outline saved and built in Word, I want to show you one of my favorite tricks to make moving your presentation over to PowerPoint a breeze. Let's jump over to PowerPoint, and let's find the New Slide button. Let's click on the drop-down arrow, and we'll choose Slides from Outline. Now, I'll go ahead and point PowerPoint to the Word document. PowerPoint will go ahead and create a new slide for each one of the points in our outline. This is a trick that can save time when you're building a presentation. How you write your presentation is up to you. There's nothing stopping you from diving directly into PowerPoint to develop the presentation, but it helps me if I use a separate app to start laying the groundwork. Usually, while I'm writing an outline, I start having ideas for what each of the slides will contain. In the next lesson, we'll start translating these ideas to slides in the Xnote theme. We've got a pretty good idea about our content at this point, so it's time that we jump into building the presentation using the Xnote theme. First, I want to give you a tip on how I generally approach building a presentation. The Xnote has more than 40 designs for our presentation, and we're obviously not going to use all of them for each and every presentation. Since we imported our outline into this presentation, I like to put all of the imported slides up at the top of the presentation. This helps me remember that I'll need slides for each of these key points in the outline. Now, let's start by going and finding a slide design to use for our introduction slide. I'm going to start going through the Xnote presentation and find something that I think would work. It doesn't take very long to find a slide that would work great for an intro. This introduction slide is pretty much ready-made. I'll drag and drop it up below the intro slide placeholder. Let's go ahead and delete the logo that's on our slide. I'm going to use a logo that I sourced from Elements for my fictitious company, and I'll actually just go to Insert and grab the image. Now I'll click and drag to position it and resize it slightly to make it work. Next up, I'll simply replace the text that was on the slide to begin with. I'll just type up my own introduction text here to customize it. I also think I want to change the color of the text slightly, so I'll just click on the text box and come up and customize the color to be white. And now I'll change the name below and title and customize it as well as you're seeing me do here. I also think that it would be great to grab a background image for this slide. There's a placeholder here that you can see that says drag picture here, which is easy to add. Let's jump back to Elements and find a simple image that would work great as a slide backdrop. I'll use this image that I went ahead and found, and I'll go ahead and download it, making sure that I enter the license information. Now I'll jump back to PowerPoint. Let's go ahead and right-click on the image placeholder and choose Format Picture. Let's click on the Paint Bucket option here, and then let's choose Picture or Texture Fill. Now I'll browse to the image that I downloaded and open it. You'll see that PowerPoint will make that image the backdrop for my slide, but it's too bright for now, so I'm going to just take the transparency slider and pull it up. We want to just fade that image into the background so it's subtle and has a nice effect. I think that looks great now. This is the core of how you can use pre-built templates. Just like that, we've taken one of the Xnote's built-in slides and customized it for our own presentation. It's better than anything I could create on my own, but took less time than even a basic slide design. Now I'll go ahead and just delete that placeholder slide for the intro since we have a real intro built out. The outline slides are just there to keep us on track and help us remember to build each of the slides we need. Let's take on another slide. We're going to talk to the audience about what we do at our company. Again, I'll go ahead and scroll through, and I like this slide to show the different things that my web design company does. These overlapping bars could describe the time we spend on different tasks. Again, I'll drag and drop it up into position. The first thing that we need to do is swap out the logo here on the top. Notice that when I click on the logo, I can't actually seem to select it. That's because this logo is on the slide master, the underlying slide design that applies to several slides. Let's go to the View tab and then change to Slide Master. I'm going to select the Slide Master. The nice thing here is that when we swap out the logo on this slide, it will take effect on all of the slides that use the same master. That means we won't have to add the logo to each and every slide. I'll add the text box logo to this slide. Again, we can resize and reposition it to get it right. Before we leave the slide master, let's also change out the footer text, which currently says presentation name goes here. Again, changing it on this slide will have it take effect on all the slides that use the same master. And then go back to View, Normal, and you'll see that the logo is on the slide itself. Now I'll start adding some basic content as you're seeing me do here. I'll change out all of the starter content with things that are relevant to my business, and I'll add my own content here. Now another thing we could do is tweak the colors of this slide. Let's recolor the bars over here. When I go to click on the shapes, you can see that I can't seem to select the individual bars that I want to change the color for. I'll right click and choose Group, Ungroup. Then I'll click and ungroup the overlapping bars again. Now we can select those individual elements and change the colors. I'll click on one of the bars and then come up to the Picture Tools Format box. I'll come to the Shape Fill option and let's grab the eyedropper. I'll grab a color from the logo and that will fill in these overlapping bars. Next, I'll choose another bar and recolor it as well. Basically, with just a few clicks, we can overhaul the color scheme of the chart. I'll change out the content here, and you could also change the percentages here as you want by changing the text and clicking and dragging the bars as well. And finally, I'll tweak the colors for the text. In just a few minutes, we've created 2 key slides without ever having to open up an app like Photoshop or Illustrator. Next up, we're going to keep working on our presentation by building additional slide designs, so stay tuned. Let's keep working on our presentation. Let's get started by building a history slide to walk our audience through the history of our company. Building a slide like this can help an audience connect past to present. Let's find a slide that would work well for this. Yet again, the Xnote has a really nice timeline option I can use. I'll go ahead and select this timeline slide and move it up into the sequence at the top. Now, notice that this has the placeholder logo as well, so we'll need to switch to Slide Master. This is a different Slide Master than the one we already changed. Let's go back to View, Slide Master. I'll scroll up to the logo on the Slide Master we added earlier and copy it to the clipboard. Then we'll come back to Slide Master 4 and delete the placeholder and paste it in. Pasting it like this ensures that it's in exactly the same place on both slides for continuity. These slide masters are like the overall designs for the presentation, and adding the logo to this one will update multiple slides at the same time. We also need to change out the footer again here. There can be multiple slide masters, so sometimes you need to update a few, but it's still far easier than changing each individual slide. Let's jump back to normal view now. I'll start off by changing the basic text for the slide near the header. Now I'll go through and change out the dates here to make them relevant to my own presentation. Simply click on the boxes and type your own year in. Also, I'm not a big fan of this icon on the far right, so I'll simply click on it and delete both it and the year. Next up, let's add images to our slide in these placeholder boxes. For my own presentation, I've gone ahead and downloaded several images from Elements that I'll substitute in. I'll click in the box and choose Picture Fill, and just point it to the images I've downloaded. I'll repeat this process for each of the 4 image placeholders to customize my presentation. Next up, let's tweak the color scheme for the bars here. You can't change it all at once, so I'll go ahead and ungroup it and change the individual elements that make it up. I'll right-click on the line object, and then choose Group, Ungroup. Now I can click on the individual bars and recolor them as well. Select each of the different bars and just change the color from the options as we've done with some examples earlier. I'll update all of these. Let's move on to our next slide, a slide to showcase our team. I'll scroll down and find one that I have in mind for this purpose, and again, I'll drag it up into the selection of slides that I'm using. Notice that the logo is already updated because we updated the controlling slide master. This is a team slide, so let's start by replacing the title for the slide and the subtitle with something relevant to our team. Next up, I'll go ahead and swap out all of the employee names and titles for them. If we need to expand the box, we can do that by just pulling out the edges of the box. And now I'll replace the employee descriptions. I'll type up something short for each one of my employees. Building a team slide like this can help an audience connect and think of you when they want to hire someone in the future. Let's change out the color scheme now. For the boxes with titles, I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard to select all of them at the same time. I'll click on each one. Let's change the text color by choosing the font option and then change the color. Now let's go to the Drawing Tools Format option and change the shape outline to a new color. I'll click on a new color thumbnail to change it. When I click off, I've got these objects recolored now. The last thing to do is change out the colors for these circles. This is actually a series of circles stacked on top of each other, and we need to grab the one in the back to change it. I'll right click and choose Ungroup, and then click this outermost circle. You can see here on the side that it's set to a gradient stop. I'll change this over to a solid fill for something cleaner, and set the color for that box. It was a little tricky to get this selected, so what I'm going to do is just highlight the circles to the right and delete them both. Now I'll click and select the stack of first circles and copy and paste it twice. I'll move them over into place. Instead of changing each one, I just changed one and then copied and pasted it into place several times. Now let's right click on the innermost circle and choose Format Shape. I'll choose Picture Fill and then browse to the employee pictures and replace them in the circles. I'll go ahead and repeat this process for all of them, and now the team slide is good to go with a quick feature on each one of our employees on the team. Stay tuned as we round out our presentation in the next lesson. To round out our presentation, we're going to build a slide that describes our services, and then a slide to let the audience know how to contact us. Let's go find a slide that we could use to show off our work. I like this slide design that has plenty of room to introduce our content and show what we do. I'm going to get started here by changing out the slide title and subtitle. Now I'll change out the headline as well. We'll give it a color that goes well with the rest of our presentation. Next up, I'll continue to work through here to the right by replacing the text with my own information that relates to my business. This content is designed to introduce the viewer to the things that TechBox does. Basically, you need a slide like this in your presentation to help the audience imagine what they might want to hire you for. I'll also go ahead and add images to the two placeholders by right-clicking on them and choosing Picture Fill to replace those gray boxes. And finally, if you think of this introductory presentation as the start of a conversation, you'll want to use a contact slide to help continue the conversation. For the contact slide, the X-Note didn't seem to have something that was pre-built for listing our contact details, but that's no problem. We'll use one that will work well and customize it. I'll scroll down and use this portfolio slide and move it up into position as well. I'll start off by changing out the text here at the top to be a basic contact slide. I'll also go ahead and delete all of these placeholders to replace it with a larger TechBox logo. I'll browse and go ahead and insert that logo onto my slide. Now I'll go ahead and change out this headline here with information encouraging the audience to get in touch. I'll even add a bit of a highlight here to bring some attention, and I'll then remove the paragraph box here to make things simpler. Now for these bullet points down here, I have an idea for really drawing the audience in. We could leave our contact and our social media details here. Again, I'm going to jump back to Elements and grab some social media icons that I can use on the slides. I'll go ahead and download this great looking icon set. Now I'll go ahead and start inserting them into my presentation. Let's add an email icon, Facebook, and Twitter icon. I'm going to browse to each of them and place them on the slide here. I'll go ahead and downsize them and then reposition them into place as you're seeing me do here. I'll also put the details in for each one of the social services here in the text. Just like that, we've taken a few assets from Elements and combined them into creating a new slide. I'll go ahead and delete all of the other placeholder slides that came with the X-Note, and we've now wrapped up our presentation that started as a simple outline and pre-built template. There's nothing stopping you from including more slides in your presentation. These are just some of the key slides that you should think about including in a presentation that's designed to introduce your team. PowerPoint has multiple views that allow us to work with our presentations in different ways. Let's have a quick look at those and then work on reordering our slides. In PowerPoint, let's find the View button on the ribbon and click on it. I think these views are each worth checking out when you're building a presentation, and each has their own role in how it works with a presentation. You can click on Outline View, for example, to view your content as an outline. There's also Normal View, which is the default view that you're probably accustomed to. The focus of this lesson is Slide Sorter View, which is easy to use but incredibly useful. Let's go ahead and switch to it. Now you can see all of your slides in view. If you need to change the size of these thumbnails so that you can see more or a larger preview, come down to the bottom here and grab the slider. You can pull this slider in either direction to change the size of the slide thumbnails for a better view. Now you can simply come back to the thumbnails to drag and drop them in the order that you want to see them in. You have a full view of your presentation, and it's easy to reorder them in Slide Sorter View. I use this view to rearrange slides and make sure that they are in a logical order. When you drag and drop the slides, you'll see the number next to the thumbnail changed to show the new order that the slides are in. Never underestimate the power of resequencing your slides. We have a tendency to build out the slides in the order that we think to build them, but that doesn't mean that's the most effective order to share them with the audience. Sometimes a slight resequencing can really help you improve your presentation and make your message more clear. Another option for organizing your presentation is to use sections. Let's switch back to Normal View. Notice that the order we set for our slides in Slide Sorter is saved, and this is the same sequence. On the left panel here, I'm going to right-click and choose Add Section. This creates an easy divider to help me organize my content. I can give this a name and then press Rename. This doesn't change anything in the presentation, it just creates these foldable sections to organize slides here on the left side, and you can see me fold the slide up here. You can drag and drop slides into a section in order to get them in the right sequence. In the next lesson, I'll show you some of my favorite tips to get more comfortable when you're giving your big presentation, so stay tuned. In this lesson, let's talk about what you can do to use PowerPoint as a presentation aid. There are tools and features that make it more comfortable to give your presentation. Let's take a look. Historically, you may have used note cards or printed pages to keep your speaking notes about your presentation. But PowerPoint actually has a speaker notes feature that allows you to build in notes for each slide digitally. To do that, let's make sure that we're in normal view and then click on Notes here at the bottom of PowerPoint. This opens up the Speaker Notes panel. Down in this box, you can type and add your speaker notes as you're seeing me do here. Adding the speaker notes here will make them available in a variety of views, as you'll see with one of the next features. Speaker notes are added to each slide. I'll switch slides here, and you'll notice in the speaker notes that this is a blank slate, and we add our commentary on a slide-by-slide basis. Each slide has its own speaker notes. Another key thing that you can add for giving a presentation is basic animations, which I'll show you quickly now. The main use for animations is to phase in the elements of your slide that you want to show. For example, if you have a compelling graph or chart, you can hide it at first and then animate it in. To do just that, I'll go ahead and click on the object that I want to animate. Now, let's go over to the Animate tab here on PowerPoint's ribbon. With an object selected, all you need to do is click on one of these thumbnails to add an animation to that object. I like to stick to simple animations like fade, for example, so I'll choose that. You'll see that PowerPoint animates that object onto the slide. You can always click Preview to play back the animations and get a look at your slide. You could select other objects and add more animations as needed. This is a helpful tool for giving presentations because you can kind of build suspense for your key points. Bring objects on in phases in order to add twists to your slide deck. Last up, I want to share Presenter View, one of my favorite tools in PowerPoint, and also one of the most underutilized. This combines all of the best tools and makes them available when you're presenting. To enter Presenter View, let's start off by coming over to the Slideshow tab and ticking the box for Use Presenter View. Oftentimes, you'll be giving your presentation with multiple screens. Maybe you can see your own presentation on your laptop, and the audience will see it on a large screen LCD display. When you use Presenter View, you'll have a different view than your audience. Let's jump into that view by clicking on the presentation icon here at the bottom. Now, right now this looks like standard view, so I'll need to swap the screens. The menu option is right up here, and you can see now what Presenter View does for us. This moved the regular presentation view over to my other monitor. First of all, the speaker notes that we added are all visible now. You can see them on your own screen, while the audience will have the normal view of the presentation. This keeps your speaking cues nearby and easy to use, and is much better than writing out note cards or ideas on paper. Finally, you can also jump around in your presentation to basically create custom slideshows. I'll click on this icon, and now you can see thumbnails for each of the slides in the deck. Your audience still won't see this, but I can click on any of the slides to jump directly to it. Basically, Presenter View is your cockpit with the most useful tools, and your audience sees just the standard presentation. Next up, I'll show you some techniques to send and share your presentation with others. I'm Andrew Childress for Tuts Plus, and thanks for joining me. In this lesson, I want to walk you through some of my favorite ways to share the presentation that we've been building in this course. In a perfect world, we would always be able to present in person, but when that isn't the case, there are always other options. First up, let's talk about some tips for sending your presentation directly to others. My favorite way to do that is to save a presentation as a PDF. Just in case your recipient doesn't have PowerPoint, it's thoughtful to give them a PDF. To do that, let's go to File, Export. Now, let's choose Create PDF/XPS document. Now, we'll simply go ahead and pick a place to save our PDF, and then save it. Let's open it up and have a look, and you can tell that it looks great in a PDF viewer. This is a good step to make a PowerPoint presentation more shareable, and it also removes the option for the user to edit the original PowerPoint presentation file. Another option that I want to show you is the ability to share your presentation using PowerPoint Online. This is a free online service from Microsoft that you can use to post your presentation and invite others to view or edit it. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to PowerPoint Online, which lives inside the web browser. It's robust enough that you can use it to replace PowerPoint when needed, and all you need is a Microsoft account to use it. To get my presentation online and make it available to PowerPoint Online, let's jump back to the desktop version of PowerPoint and save it to OneDrive. I'll come to the Save options and then go ahead and save it to my OneDrive account. This will keep it in sync between both the desktop app and PowerPoint Online. I'll save it to the same OneDrive account that I use with PowerPoint Online. Remember, this Microsoft account is free, so don't hesitate to create one. Now let's pop back to PowerPoint Online, and when I refresh here, you'll see that the presentation is available here on the side. I'll go ahead and open it up, and you can see that this is basically our presentation right inside a web browser. At this point, you can do a variety of things. You could just click Start Slideshow and present it. This is helpful if you want to give your presentation at a moment's notice, even on a computer that doesn't have PowerPoint installed. But for now, let's look at sharing the presentation with people. I'll go ahead and click on that option. First, we can invite others to collaborate with us. Let's drop an email address, a note, and set a key setting here below. In that setting, you can choose to let your recipients edit or view by changing that option. Also, another option is to just get a link, a URL that you can give to anyone to access the presentation. This is helpful if you're distributing it to an audience and don't want to invite individuals one after another. Grab a link from here and send and share it to make it easy to get to your presentation. Finally, I'll hit close and let's look at one last option. I'll click Edit Presentation here at the top and choose Edit in Browser. I just want to show you that you can really make quick edits to the presentation even from a web browser. If you see a typo or a change you need to make at the last minute, this can be a real lifesaver. And remember, because we saved it to OneDrive, Microsoft's free cloud storage solution, the changes will stay synced. Even if you aren't using this to send the presentation to others, it can be a good step to save your presentation in the cloud for safekeeping. Then, if you're in a room and giving a presentation, you could just access it from the computer that's in the room. Any of these are a great way to share a presentation when you can't get in the same room with someone else. Think about these the next time you need to present and can't find a common time to share.
In this course, you learned some of my favorite tools for giving a presentation using Microsoft PowerPoint. Above all, I can't tell you how much that I like to outsource some of the hard work of building a presentation to the artists on Envato Elements. If you have a few key takeaways from this course, remember these tips. One is that you don't have to do everything when you're building a presentation. Sometimes it's best to leave the work of building a template or the slides up to the creative artist on Elements. 2, sketch out your content and have an idea of what you want to say before you ever even open up PowerPoint. Write the thesis statement first so that you can tie back everything in your presentation to one central idea. And make sure that you write an outline before you open PowerPoint. Whether you use Word or just sketch out that outline on paper, it's a great way to set the course for your presentation before giving it. 3, slide designs are a starting point for your presentation, and it's one of the best shortcuts I can offer when you're building one. Using a template like the X-Note or another from Elements, substitute your own content into the starter slides to really cut down on the time spent building a presentation. 4, don't forget that Elements includes all kinds of things that you might want to use in your presentation. That could be stock photos, icons, or most importantly, the PowerPoint themes that we looked at in this tutorial. 5, use the tools in PowerPoint's arsenal to give you confidence while you're actually giving the presentation. Use a combination of notes, animations, and presenter view to really keep the tools that you need nearby. Presentations can be easier to give than you think. Use the tools and the work of others to really cut down on the work of building a PowerPoint. I'm Andrew Childers for Tuts Plus, and thanks so much for joining me.